of the webinar series towards the conference Balkans Go Circular that will be organized in the mid of December 2022, which actually means 15th and 16th of December. That will expound the story, the situation, and the future of development of circular economy on the Balkan region. We really hope that we'll have a lot of very active guests, but most importantly, what we know is that we're gonna have top-notch speakers and panelists and case studies presented in this event in 2022. Of course, there will be some more words about this towards the end of this webinar, along with the information how you will be able to participate, being that we are organizing this in a hybrid mode. And now I would like to dedicate a few minutes and present you a bit more about today's topic, but also about the background of this project and how you can get involved in this one, being that we really strive for collaboration across borders, especially in the Balkan region, in a Balkan context. So today's webinar is about the metrics. How do we measure circularity, or how do we measure impacts that circularity can bring to companies, to cities, and to the society as well. I would say the biggest focus of today's session is going to be on companies and how do they perceive the future of metrics and planning. And therefore, I have a wonderful opportunity to welcome two speakers, Mr. Darko Milankovic and Dr. Conrad Landis. Darko Milankovic is coming from Serbia. He's the lead sustainability manager and lead of CETEF Group. And Dr. Conrad Landis is senior researcher at AUEB, coming from Greece. I will definitely welcome them in a couple of more words in a few minutes. But now my name is actually Milan Veselinov, and I am director and founder of small but agile company that is solely dedicated to innovative circular economy transition in Balkan region and beyond. And we have been working a lot with major stakeholders around Europe and around the Balkans in order to facilitate systemic change to a circular economy. One of these initiatives is rooted or has ripened in the project called Circular Economy Balkan Beacons, that is co-funded and supported by EIT Climate Kick. And this webinar series, as well as the conference, is part of this project this year. And of course, there will be, we aim to have this at least annual setup for presenting and facilitating change through this type of conferencing and webinars and information sharing. So Circular Economy Balkan Beacons is the project that really facilitates systemic change. We're not focused on one particular aspect or one particular sector. We really want to tackle multiple dimensions and multiple levels of circularity development. And therefore, we are here to help businesses take advantage of new market standards they're facing. So this is our primary focus, but we're targeting all three levels of systemic change. And we want to guide businesses through the process of transition to circular business model and to enable them to become prepared for the new market obstacles they will most probably encounter. And we currently see from the field, from the groundwork, that it's going to be a bigger and bigger opportunity, but if not opportunity, then it might become an obstacle or even a threat to further development of the industries in our region. What we do is how we do it. Firstly, we have a set of partners that are coming from 7 countries around the Balkan Beacons, also partnering with the German partner. So in that way, we're encompassing Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, currently Greece, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Germany. We are also collaborating with Spanish partners and with Danish partners, thus facilitating this cutting edge knowledge to be streamlined and modified to fit our context for the Balkan Peninsula. Um, we also realize that there are a couple of layers, so we call it, of course, onion layers, by which we operate. And most importantly, it is that all of our participants, all of our partners are accustomed and well aware of the full scope of circular economy. So we really don't want to single out recycling, nor remanufacturing, nor business models, or only innovation, but we really need to know completely what circular economy brings to us, be that from the threat perspective or from the opportunities perspective. And therefore, we strive and we aim to forward and to disseminate complete knowledge about circular economy. Next thing is something that we would dearly like you to be included in more, as the time comes more and more and more. And that's why we really aim to create a network that is focused on circular economy development. And that's why we are almost ready with a platform that will roll out in 2023 that will literally do this: facilitate collaboration, create community, and help accelerate transition to circular economy. There will be a couple of or a number of different options, but one or actually two main axes of this platform will be problem solving and knowledge management throughout the Balkan region. We also hope that this will live not only in Balkan region, but this will be useful, quite useful for the rest of the countries in Europe and beyond. So the next layer that we really need to see is what market answers. So who is willing to pay for what, and what are the things that are currently in trend to be tackled. So that's why we always need to work with the market and stakeholders from the business side in order, yes, basically to proof case what we're developing. And the last but not the least is definitely one of the toughest parts, but also we believe most impactful parts, is to create an innovation startup support system. So we want to drive local or regional innovation for regional needs to set or to fulfill these, or actually to bridge these circular economy gaps that we realize along the way. So we want to boost our innovation capacity in the Balkan region. It's let's well, be quite honest. This is a long-term path. It's not really something that will be developed in one project for 3 to 4 years. It's something that will be continuously developed. We hope at least for the next 10 years. So there is a huge opportunity that we can couple and work together on future initiatives under this umbrella. As you can see, also there are two axes that we are having the support role, which is the policymaking support and which is the impact planning and measurement support. And this second axis is literally that this webinar is aiming for. So impact planning and measurement. We want to discover what is the metrics and how to get to these metrics. What is the impact of these metrical systems when it comes to circular economy? And definitely we will discuss this more with my today's speakers. So we come to the point where I would really like to introduce my guest today. So Conrad Landis is a postdoc researcher at the Research Laboratory on Socioeconomic Environment and Environmental Sustainability in Athens University. And he's a researcher of in one of our partner organizations, which is Athena Research Center, that is coming, of course, from Athena, Greece, and working in sustainable development unit or sustainable development department. He's a co-manager of UNSDSN Greece and adjunct professor and the Master of Science, Banking and Finance in the Athens University of Economics and Business. He currently works in RCNO, which is a H 2020 project or Horizon 2020 project, and Impetus, also Horizon 2020. He holds a PhD in financial econometrics from the Athens University, and also he's a holder of Master of Science in International Economics, Finance, and Business, and Bachelor of Science in Economics. So we have a wonderful opportunity to talk with a key actor that is developing research and that is actually having a main insight how the economics works around circular economy. So Conrad, it's a very great pleasure to have you today with us.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. We're going to discuss a bit more about everything that we have now bulleted or listed out. Together also with me is Mr. Darko Milankovic, my colleague, I would say, or a friend in the battle for circular economy. He's a sustainability manager and lead for electric motor production line in ZF ZF Group. Activities related to his current role include corporate product and projects for carbon footprint strategies. He's mainly dealing with LCA and PCF studies. We'll shortly discuss about what this is actually. He is in the development of PCF reduction strategies and operational plans for a major company such as ZF. He's a member of several cross-functional teams from different management and strategic levels, which brings him insights on both horizontal and vertical axis of how one big international company functions. And this is very important from the point of view of horizon scanning. What is in the future, the potential, and also what is the, I would say, the trends that will come to not only to major international companies, but also down the supply chains where also a lot of companies belong. He's responsible for sustainability levers and projects which will take ZF to the next level of sustainability. He is focused on sustainability of ZF electric motors, which is the heart of electrical vehicles, factories, and supply chains. Darko, I'm very happy that I can welcome you today. Thank you very much for joining. Oh, no. It's you have to unmute. Sorry. Unmute, please.
You can hear me now, yeah?
Yes.
And thank you very much for an invitation. And I'm really, really glad to have opportunity to discuss so important topics today.
Thank you very much. So I would really like to then start with a little bit of explanation of what do you mean? I've mentioned LCA, PCF, a lot of abbreviations now. So if we can delve deeper and explain a little bit, what is LCA, what is PCF, why does it matter on a company level? And we can start from there and then continue down the question line.
Okay. First of all, when I start to think about what is LCA, or that means life cycle assessment, and what is PCF is product carbon footprint, it both serves in the purpose of systematically recording the entire life cycle of a product or service and analyzing its impacts on the environment, of course. PCF or LCA studies can help us to improve our product development, our marketing plans, strategic planning, and very important area, even policy making. Why? Because when product designers start to explore how their design choices affect the sustainability of the products, then we start to dealing with too many issues, of course, because we recognize in their hotspot analysis where are the true sources of environmental impacts. And policymaker can make their decisions by comparing all major environmental impacts. And of course, sustainability managers can access the portfolio and see what is needed to achieve carbon footprint goals. Marketing department and my colleagues from marketing teams can get factual data for sustainability communications. And purchasing department, for an example, can learn which suppliers have the most sustainable products and methods they are using. And after all of that, I started to think, what are the main benefits of life cycle assessment or product carbon footprint analysis? And first, an LCA or PCF study, what is quantitative basis for your sustainability strategy and helps you make tactical sustainability decisions. With these tools, you can define your actual starting point, your baseline for short and long-term sustainability path. Of course, LCA results and PCF results offer you great insight how truly to innovate your products with focus and intention. And in that job, you need to evaluating the whole supply chain of your upcoming materials, and helps you to discover which special materials have the highest potential to make a positive environmental impact. For products with a blend combination of several materials, an LCA study allows you to compare and test out all your alternatives. What is the next benefit? And PCF or LCA provides you with credible data to justify your sustainable claims. As more and more regulation arise, we will combat with topic as greenwashing, and you need to have a credible environmental data to substantiate the external claims you make about your products being sustainable. And also LCA and PCF enhances your brand or products value and give you a competitive advantage in the industry. And of course, performing this kind of studies, your brand and final product truly has the authenticity, integrity, and credibility in the world of sustainability initiatives and actions. And what is also important to note, an LCA enables you to forge collaborative relationships with your suppliers and partners. And why? Because LCA or PCF study required collaboration between your product or service and suppliers on one side. And in order to conduct a truly standardized LCA, you need several inputs from each product phase of their supply chains. And gathering this kind of data sometimes can be very difficult. And without strong partnerships or relationships with your suppliers, you will not be able to achieve your LCA or PCF goals. But however, undergoing this process with suppliers at the end can help you to strengthen the relationship and foster a partnership. And at the end, the last action point that I would like to underline is that an LCA allows you for more meaningful connection with your consumers or customers at the end.
Thank you very much. So basically, it is rather a complicated process, especially when you have a huge upstream supply chain, or yeah.
Absolutely. And especially when you are dealing with the scope 3 upstream for purchase goods and services. And there you will discuss how it's truly complex and what is all underlining production technologies or processes that you need to be aware of it.
Thank you, Darko. I would really like to maybe down the webinar see if what is the relation with the upstream supply chain from your perspective. What would be maybe a more or new requirements that will be more and more tangible and visible on the plane. But until we get to that point, I would maybe switch to Conrad and discuss a little bit about the broader perspective of indicators, being that currently we see that, for instance, ISO technical group 2.3 is developing the standards for a circular economy, but one of the major issues is how to set up the indicators set, how to measure circularity, how to measure progress in that domain. What would you say, not maybe referring to ISO, but what would you say that the level playing story or the level playing field of indicators is currently present, and what would be some sets of indicators that you see visible and active today when it comes to measuring circularity? Thank you, Conrad.
Thank you. So just to add to what Darko said, the indicators in measurable key performance KPIs are really useful for a company to build up its reporting system and to control, to have a dashboard in order to evaluate the level of implementation, its level of transition to specific circular economy goals. So now, in relation to what's the field right now, and most probably the most common framework at the EU in KPIs related to circular economy, that I could classify that to 4 pillars. So each company needs to measure specific key performance indicator across its value chain, mainly through in 4 pillars. The first pillar is, let's say, production and consumption, where we can define many indicators for self-sufficiency of raw materials in production. So consider here specific metrics related to the water use efficiency or reuse of water, or the share of renewable energy to specific units at a company level. So the second pillar, it refers to KPIs related to waste generation. And here we do care about quantity, quality, and type of waste generated along the value chain. And of course, some measurable KPIs can be related to waste directed from disposal, or, for example, by recovery operation, or waste directed to disposal by disposable operation. So a third pillar refers to how company manages its waste along its value chain. It's related to waste management, and here we have several KPIs that calculate the recycling rates, or indicators for specific waste streams, which are actually circularity metrics, either from own activities companies, or upstream and downstream activities in its value chain. Now, the fourth main pillar, I would say it refers to secondary raw materials. So it's contribution. We have measurements for the contribution of the share of recycled materials to company inputs, and also some indicators that refer to circular material the circular material use rate of units or of companies, or trade in recyclable raw materials. Now, finally, we have another important pillar which refers to which refers actually to competitiveness and investments in relation to innovation and investments related to circular economy, where here we can count several KPIs as the total investments on technologies or innovative industrial processes which are relevant, or, for example, number of patterns related to recycling or secondary raw materials. And that gives an overview, at least on the play field, in terms of measurable KPIs that can be used at a company level to create a dashboard and monitor the progress in relation to circularity. And probably I will have time later to provide more details on how, on what new
systems, right?
The new introduced framework will bring.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Conrad. If I see it correctly now, these 4 pillars are targeting the waste minimization, their material efficiency or material productivity in domain of how do we produce value, market value with less energy and less material consumption, but also relating to innovativeness or innovation and pattern building in that driving, being as a driving force for future circular economy. Maybe not today, but already tomorrow circular economy is something that will be pushed by innovation, if I understood it correctly.
Yes, yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Conrad. So
Thank you.
I would also like to remind our audience to be free to use the questions and answers area, so you can start working with us, and we can start answering your questions. But when it comes to that point, I would also like to iterate a little bit with you as an audience and ask one question that will maybe start posing some of the answers from our panelists. So in front of you, you have 3 questions, and there will be, some of them will be easy, some of them will be maybe not so easy, but I would run this for a couple of seconds. So please feel free to join our polls and see what, at least to try to answer question number 1, which is, do you believe that you know enough about the environmental regulatory obligations for your products? They will come in the next 2 to 5 years. And while poll is running, I would also like to emphasize that there are several regulation and directives coming from the European Union that are definitely going to have an impact on how do we produce and what metrics do we use in order to either continue exporting or importing products from or to European Union. And as I see, we have quite a decent number of answers now, but let's try to wait a little bit more. And I think that I like really what I see is that 50% of people currently do know what is the regulation setup, but also that means that 50% of people would like to know more about what is coming now. So it is my pleasure to continue and continue the discussion in that domain, and actually forwarding question to Conrad, and that would be, so when it comes to regulation, when it comes to these frameworks, what is there that on the horizon that companies should prepare for? I know that there is a reporting directive, and also there is something that is called CBAM. So maybe starting to talk a little bit about the reporting directive and then switch to maybe to CBAM. Conrad, if you would like to tell us a little bit more.
Okay, so what's new in terms of corporate reporting? That is the newly introduced Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRSD, sorry, which amends actually the NRFD, the Non-Financial Reporting Directive, which was in effect since 2018. Now, the most important developments that this framework introduced, first, let's say in relation to first which companies it refers to. Okay, so the current framework was actually mainly based on large companies. So up until now, only large listed companies had to follow the non-financial reporting directive to report based on an RFD. Now, the the previous framework covered something around 11,000 large companies around Europe. So now this new framework will impact more than 50,000 companies, which is actually more than 75% of the total European Union's companies turnover. And under this framework, actually now will fall any company that meets two out of three of the following criteria. That is, companies with more than 250 employees, or 40 millions of euros turnover, or 20 millions of euros of total assets. So it actually refers to all listed companies in EU regulated markets, and it will also include SMEs, which will be which will get an extra 3 years to comply, as I will refer later. So actually, from this framework, only the micro-listed companies are excluded. That is, companies with less than 10 employees, or less than 20 million euros of turnover. So the next important aspect is when this framework will apply. And actually, this framework will apply by 2024, at January 2024, where companies will have to report for the financial year 2023. And as I said earlier, the SMEs will get an extension for 3 years. So for SMEs, the reporting system will take effect from middle of 2026. And eventually, as we move on for moving on until 2028, also non-EU companies will also have to comply. And that would refer to large companies with more than 150 millions of euros of revenues. So the introduction of the new framework would be on 2 stages. So a first set of measurable KPIs based on the ESG, based on all 3 pillars of ESG, will be introduced during 2023. And this first set of KPIs will be more generic and more sector agnostic, while there would be a second set of specific standards and KPIs that will be introduced in 2024, which will be more related, which will introduce more sector specific KPIs. And as I said, the process for all European countries, the process in adapting this new regulation will start from December 2022. So now major changes also are important in relation to the scope of reporting. So actually, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive will expand the non-financial reporting directive in order to include now a double materiality assessment. That is not only the financial materiality identifying sustainability risks, including impacts from climate change, but also will ask companies to perform an impact materiality, that is to identify and quantify specific impacts, not only to environment, but only to social factors. So remember, this framework will be wrapped around ESG metrics. So as well as companies will have to report on the process they follow to identify material topics to all types of their stakeholders. So another very important aspect that I want to underline is that third-party assurance will be mandatory, and it will start with from the fiscal year of 2023, and it's actually now mandatory to be included, to be audited, and to be included in the annual management report of companies. So this is actually the most important developments in terms of the new metrics and indicators.
So if I understood also, there will be necessity, as Darko had mentioned, in a conventional way, but now also from the regulation and directive point of view, that the external assessment, external assurance, or due diligence, or actually it's not the certification, what is the word, the confirmation of results is done by the external auditors in order to substantiate the claims that were delivered by the company.
Exactly, and that's one of the major development because these third-party insurance will be mandatory moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, there is a strong then drive to increase these external auditing schemes that or external auditing processes that will ensure this process is on its right track. Darko, how does this apply for the companies? And also let's try to then switch to the CBAM directive and what does it bring to well, also to original equipment manufacturers, but for the downstream or no, sorry, for the upstream supply chains. Darko, any reflections on the CSRD and then maybe switch to CBAM?
First, my impression when I heard Conrad is that is directly aligned. You know, it's one part of the same story, and we need to cover all that KPIs that are coming from different approaches. But here, I would like first to share information with participants about the timeline, how carbon border adjustment mechanism, when it started and when it will be on the force. First, European Commission adopted communication on the European Green Deal, envisaging a carbon border adjustment mechanism for selected sectors in December 2019. In July 2021, European Commission adopted its proposal for CBAM. The key objective of the measure was to reduce risk of carbon leakage by equalizing the price of carbon between domestic products and imported one. In the March 22 this year, the Council of the European Union adopted its general approach on the CBAM and introducing relatively minor changes to the original proposal. In June this year, after the European Parliament had postponed its vote, it has now adopted its position on the CBAM and introducing substantial amendments to the original proposal. In July 2022, of course, the negotiation between the European Commission, Council of the European Union and European Parliament on the final text started and began. And in January 2023, we need to be prepared for CBAM because it's proposed to be implemented within a transitional period starting on January 1st, 2023. What are the 5 main principles of CBAM? What is first aims is to prevent carbon leakage by subjecting the import of certain groups of products from third non-EU and non-EFTA countries to carbon levy linked to the carbon price payable under the EU emission trading system, ETS, and when the same goods and produced within the EU. The second one is currently the following goods have been proposed to be in scope of the CBAM, but cement, iron and steel, aluminum, fertilizers, organic chemicals, plastics, electricity, hydrogen, ammonia, and so on. It is expected that the list of products covered by CBAM will be further expanded in the course of the coming years, of course, and the transitional period for the CBAM is expected to start from the 1st January 2023, during which EU importers must submit quarterly CBAM reports stating their imports of the CBAM products as well as the emission that are embedded in their imported products. Such emissions are proposed to include direct and indirect emissions occurring during the production process of the imported goods. That means that need to be covered the scope 1 and 2 and especially focused on the scope 3 upstream. And in the transitional period is proposed to the end in January 2027, after which the carbon levy under the CBAM must be paid. And in order to pay the carbon levy under the CBAM, EU importers must purchase CBAM certificates which covering the emissions embedded in products they import and submit annual CBAM declarations. And the fifth principle is to when you're importing CBAM products, you need to purchasing CBAM certificates and submitting CBAM declarations. That all will require a special authorization, the authorized CBAM declarant, issued to EU importers or representatives acting on behalf of one or more importers by competent CBAM authority. And what are the key three main key actions that businesses need to take to be prepared for the transitional period? The first one, you need to carry out the initial impact assessment. Which of your products will be covered by CBAM? Where do you source them from? What is origin? And what is the volume of your imports of these products? The second action is to set up the process, how to collect data on the embedded emission, who in the supply chain holds this information, how you need to proceed, what kind of agreement you need to prepare, and who will reach out to the suppliers. And the third one is to set up reporting process in the EU, determining the business function within your organization responsible for the compliance requirements of the CBAM. And that's just a short story that cover, I think, the main points, and of course, when it started, what are the main principles and what we need to do to be prepared.
In practice, this is very important for our future developments of circularity and related fields, is that this regulation really started in 2019, right? And
it's not started, that's just started the drafted version, or they just shared their idea and how to connect it with the European Green Deal, and what it's behind and what will be the selected sectors and so on. That the idea starts.
So basically this future horizon environmental policy scanning, let's call it like that, is really important when it comes to strategic planning, because what I faced in recent year is a little bit of panic attacks from the companies, like, what should we do now? It's coming next year. And it's literally, 5 years in process, and it's important to know these things and constantly be adapting. The point is that some actors are not really on the ball when it comes to being fresh with information and being active or reactive, at least on the trends when it comes to environmental protection. And now it goes all under the umbrella of circular economy, but also when it comes to the new eco design directive and similar standards, they will literally require different design of products. It is necessary to know what comes 5 years ahead, because that's basically a window where we can adapt as companies with least amount of I would say transition costs or transaction costs, and the most of it being developed to prepare for the new standards or prepare for the new position on the market. And therefore, I'm very glad that at least 50% are aware. Well, no, sorry. Now it's 33% of audience is actually aware of what happens in the next 5 years. And that brings us as a very important task, as we mentioned before, for circular economy Balkan beacons, that we always do this policy touch base and policy support systems. So we also not only inform the system, the business system, but also try to navigate through the policy system of a country or of a region to adapt in time in order to alert or to prepare these documents when it's necessary. Darko, please.
And I would like to share with audience also some publicly available information, but what is going on for developing countries. The World Bank has already formed a coalition of finance ministers for climate action. That's called Finance Ministers Coalition. And what they are doing, they are discussing about carbon pricing. and it is understood that the finance minister coalition has been actively discussing CBAM, also in the context of their consideration about carbon prices. And this kind of international cooperation on carbon pricing, which is beyond the CBAM measures in particular, may also assist in developing the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. And I think that this kind of approach would enable developing countries to take measures to increase carbon prices proportionally, while taking account of their specific needs to protect domestic industry. And that is so important. And what does CBAM means for our companies and how I see it? Many Western Balkan country corporates will be monitoring the emissions performance of their supply chains. Why? But to be able, in order to meet the monitoring, verification, and reporting standards that are expected for most corporate entities. And few companies will know in what country the actual emissions are, and how to relate with them, and how to relating to the development of their goods, where are they generated in, and so on. Companies that consume products covered within the scope of the EU emission trade system, for an example, manufacturing, could fact, and could face significant additional cost pass-through from existing suppliers if the CBAM is implemented. Due to the significant emissions occurring in geographies without commensurate low carbon policies and the emissions associated with this transport of the goods to the EU, corporates or companies should ensure that they understand the geographical composition of their emissions and are enable them to undertake a supply chain review. And you need to making a conclusion, costs versus carbon trade-offs, and ensuring the resilience of their pricing model for the proposed changes.
True. That one of the things that of course, we were discovering and searching and researching about CBAM and other potentially impactful regulations. One of the things that I've seen that, of course, the logic says the more you pollute, the more expensive your product will be, and for Serbia particularly, this impact may be up to 15%. 15% more expensive product, because if we don't decarbonize the industry, the production, etc., etc. So that can be detrimental, point of when it comes to not only to reporting, but when it comes to payments and when it comes to paying these certificates, and that's I think from 2026 and on. That can be with a big impact of making a competition story in the European export.
Absolutely. And if our companies or corporates are ready, they need to act now.
Yeah, that's
yeah. That is
here you have mentioned
the most important information for them, acting now.
Yeah, to be ready for 2026. Right?
Absolutely.
And you have mentioned here a couple of industries, and we have the poll. Basically, you've answered this question: what is the environmental impact going to be until 2030? And mostly it will affect metals, chemicals, plastics, construction because of cement, but cement primarily. And then it goes to different and energy, fuels. That's energy actually system. But then it goes to even further to textiles consideration, other chemicals consideration, and so on and so on. So the first one in the impact would be the one that you've listed. And now I would like to switch to the topic that goes with the story of design of products. And Conrad, would you be willing to explain us a little bit more about? Yeah, you have mentioned 4 pillars of the indicators and KPIs that are necessary to be measured, and that comes, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, from the monitoring, circularity monitoring framework from European Union, right? But let's talk a little bit more about the ESG framework. Let's talk about more about CSRD and maybe a little bit more about the eco-design directives that are currently in development.
Okay, so thank you. So apart from apart from the frameworks I referred to, yes, we expect that the new eco-design directive in 2022 for sustainable product regulation will also have an impact on KPIs used for circular economy. So let me provide some more details. Actually, this is a step to integrate further the environmental aspect into the product development. So there is a large set of a large range of requirements which are introduced, and they expand the previous directive, which is more related to energy related products. And now we are expanding to a broad set of products, and these frameworks put a lot of requirements for product durability, reusability, upgradability, repairability, specific terms for energy and reuse efficiency, remanufacturing and recycling, of course, carbon and environmental footprints, as well as some enhanced informational requirements. Now, I also wanted to underline, just to combine with what Darko said, that companies need to be ready. And in the terms of the new frameworks, and also answering the question if all stakeholders are on board, I can refer to the first and the second report of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network Senior Working Group. In the reports for the implementation of the European Green Deal, where we have a lot of analysis that clearly show that a good ESG performance, and more important, we expect that a good performance under the new frameworks will also be highly related to companies' performance. So you can, we have reports that a good ESG, a good performance is also related to the highest return and value for the company, and also to lower risk in markets. So I think not only companies should try to be ready, companies would gain if they are ready, ready and integrate fast the new frameworks. Integrate fast the new frameworks in terms of their reporting system and their system of decision making. Okay, so just another short comment that, as I said, in the context of the new sustainability report, company sustainability report directive, we said that we need the double materiality assessment. So there is also a new set of KPIs emerging, which are hybrid metrics and are closely related to combining, actually, to monetize the impact, the identified impacts throughout the value chain, monetize these impacts and combine with metrics of financial performance. So let's say that companies need not only care about decarbonizing fast, but they need to do that profitably. So when they have to gain from it.
Thank you, Conrad. So Darko, any reflections on how these new, I would say, standards or requirements are affecting companies and the design of their products? We mentioned eco-design directive and also a few more, especially when it comes to making change profitable as well.
Yes, I would like to add something, but I will talk in general, of course, not to present ZF in that way. What is going on behind these new directives and normatives? We are going much farther than that is presented in this kind of directives. What does it mean? We are not developing decarbonization roadmaps or strategic goals. We are defining what truly mean that organization have a capability and have a strong mission regarding the sustainable and circular product. How it's look like, what areas or what technology we need to cover in that way, what is our strategic position in the marketplace, how it will look like by 10 years or in the 2040, and we are already prepared for that scenarios, and we are developing new technologies, new material flows, and we are searching behind the sustainability innovation to discover true profit areas. You know, we are trying to find balance between environmental footprint and profitability, and we are very successful in that way.
And how do you get data for this? Because it's a tremendous amount of upstream data that you need to rely on, not only to collect, but you need to rely on this data.
Yes, for some scenarios, we have opportunity to make prototypes and to invest in that way. But also we are using several models for, for system dynamic, and the system dynamic model shows us cause effect chains between all important areas of our projects that are under the scope. And we are considering new technologies, we are making new patents and so on.
Yeah, perfect.
That is always much farther than when what we can see or find in regulations,
Yeah, that's exactly one of the approaches, and now we're very glad that a few researchers around the world is taking also not taking but using or had come to the similar conclusions with our approaches in Balkan beacons, is that horizon scanning, exactly what you're doing, is at the utmost importance if you want to plan for the future, and then piloting, as you mentioned. And what we try to include in the future of business, at least Balkan setup, is the systemic overview or the systemic or systems thinking in decision making, which is hard, very hard, because it requires a different mindset. And you said system dynamics. What is that? That's not planning for the that's not planning for the predetermined goal. It's really realizing what happens when you make any kind of a move.
Absolutely.
Right. And that requires really different kind of thinking. And I would be happy to delve even deeper in this mindset shifting, maybe during the conference or maybe during the next year. Yes, please, Darko, you wanted to complete.
Just what is the basic question that we answer on our way? What I can do the best that is possible, and from that perspective, we are trying to developing our strategy goals and link them with operational plans and link them with corporate KPIs or product line KPIs, or at the end product KPIs. And we truly are committed to fulfill all our customer requirements from one side, but we are far away from them. We are in the future with our technology approaches, mindset, organization, and so on. And I really would like to share with our companies and representatives that they need to be active now.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about technologies that will come in 2040, 2045, and so on, 2035. you know. They're all from
I
that perspective.
thank you very much. And so in that way, like you have mentioned this, but I would like maybe to conclude with one question, then leave some space for the audience to interact with this. So there is a constant push, but it's also maybe a natural push from change and from delaying the deadlines of change towards circularity and this new setup of metrics. Is it actually some sort of a suicidal move if we postpone too long? And if it is, what is a diffuser for this ticking bomb? If that is the case, well, maybe it's good. It's okay to push it. So I would really like to have your view from Conrad and from Darko. Maybe Conrad first, and then we finish with Darko.
I think the answer is we don't have to postpone. I think the answer we have to adjust and integrate these new frameworks fast. That would be the most, that would add the most of the value, and I think that would be the most profitable way to do that also.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, there is also a long-standing debate about energy transition and when it comes the best point to actually shift the energy towards renewables, or whether it's good to postpone or not. Now, on this conference, we're also going to talk about circularity as an answer to crisis, and now we see that postponement is actually not a particularly good idea when it comes to real complex systems, as Darko had mentioned, where you cannot really plan for everything, and that doing and working sooner rather than later is in most of the cases, and I'm particularly deliberately not saying always, but in most of the cases is more profitable and more workable than postponing it. Quick reflection from Darko, and then I know that Conrad maybe will be able to answer one question, and I know that you have to leave very soon. Darko, what is your point here?
My point of view is that we cannot postpone our actions regarding new directives. Why? Because if business would like to survive the transition period, they need to change it now. That is not question about can you understand what is upcoming or are you aware. It will become the question if you will survive at the marketplace.
And
you know
what triggers me now is actually that we're not talking about environmental protection for the for the sake of environmental protection, but actually how the business inherently will change its operation and view on the market and their positioning.
The leaders of companies are responsible to integrate sustainability and sustainability requirements into their mission and vision.
Yeah, true.
And after this task, they are responsible for the operational plans, and they need to be role models. You need to feel how they behave, how they decide, and if they truly consider our future generations.
Yeah, there is also one aspect of planning for the future business is exactly what you said. No more managers, more leaders, because managers work
More
with
leaders.
analysis, very predetermined things, and they're prone to have a very efficient approach to the outputs, generating outputs. But leaders are something that are willing to go in the unknown. And circular economy, we also had a number of workshops that you can see online, but we will also have a number of workshops that consider systemic thinking or systems thinking. We're talking about the complex systems where you really don't know every step of the way, and that's where leaders can go, and managers are refrained usually because they have lack of data to plan ahead. Conrad, please, if you can share a couple of views on the question from the audience, is where can we find the document on ESG pillars?
Yes, I can share a link. This is actually posted in both at the EU website and also at the Eurostat. So there is a complete framework from Eurostat on how with directions with specific KPIs on measuring circular economy indicators.
Thank you very much, Conrad. So as I see that there are no more questions in the audience, and slowly we are approaching the our end moment for the webinar. I know that, Conrad, you have to leave at 1:10, so thank you very much for being with us. And hopefully that I see you again on the conference, if not even earlier. Thank you for being with us here.
Thank you very much. I was very
Thank
happy
you very
to
much.
participate. It was very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At the end of this webinar, I would like to invite everyone to be part of our next session or next workshop. They will be tackling the LCA and circularity metrics that will be organized towards the end of the November. And I would also like to invite all of you to follow us on the website, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, and of course, feel free to jump on our YouTube channel where we had a number of webinars where we explain hot topics on circular economy. Of course, if you want to get informed more about our work and stay informed about our future events, try to scan this QR code. If not, we're gonna invite you on the next one, and stay in line with the newest information from the Balkan Peninsula when it comes to circular economy. My name was and is actually Milan Veselinov, and thank you very much for being with us for this hour and more. Hopefully I see you again in, well, almost exactly in a month where this Balkan Go Circular Conference is taking place. Thank you very much, and stay in touch.